Hello, I hope you guys are doing well today. I'm doing the follow-up video to my Q&A where I said, ask me whatever the fuck you want. I'm not gonna edit this, I'm literally just going to ramble, rant, and talk to you one-on-one. But anyways, I'm just gonna have fun with this video. I literally did not really pre-read a lot of the questions and the stuff that I did see when I first released this video. I have forgotten, so if there's anything I don't feel comfortable like answering or sharing, I'll obviously say that. And if you potentially didn't see this video and you want to ask me something, literally something personal, something music-based, you can let me know down in the comment section below, and obviously I will go through it, so we'll try to get through these fast. So Josh Barron666 asked, is Mikhail Ackerfeld the sexiest man in metal, or is it someone else? So I can definitely see where you're coming from. I will hear you out. Not my cup of tea, but I will say I am probably more of like a Lucas from Holding Absence, or maybe a fucking Tim Henson from Polyphia person. I'm Ron, by the way. Ron Weasley says, hey, congratulations, it's awesome and you deserve it. If I have a question, I'll let you know. Thank you. Hello Face001 asks, what are your favorite ways to engage with the music community, whether it's in person or online through social media and forums? So I have a kind of interesting trajectory when it comes to that, because unlike a lot of YouTubers that are at the size that I'm at, I don't really fuck with social media connected to my YouTube. I do have a Discord, I do have a Twitter, all that sort of thing, but I keep those pretty separate because I also come from the voice acting community, and I try to keep a lot of my other stuff separate from my YouTube account, so I don't really interact with many people via Discord or Twitter or that sort of thing, and I don't really have any alt accounts that I do that on either. I really fuck with concerts and, you know, those once-in-a-lifetime interactions where you get with someone that, like, really clicks with you and you really enjoy that interaction. That's cool, but I would say maybe I'm a little bit biased, and I know a lot of people won't really be able to resonate with this, but just being someone that grew up not really having many metalheads around me, being able to be a YouTuber of the level that I've gotten to makes me really proud, and it makes me happy to have a community, because that is my favorite way. It is making people critically think about the music they listen to, putting recommendations out there, and truthfully, there is just another feeling for me when I hear something that I just cannot help myself. I just clamor to share with people, to get out there, to let other people enjoy and what I'm passionate about. That is how I enjoy interacting with this community, and I know it's going to be different from other people who maybe don't create content or that sort of thing. So my perspective on it kind of comes from the fact that I love having a community, I love recommending for people, and that's really what I get a lot of gratification about, because when I first got into the community, that is what I enjoyed watching on YouTube. When I watched like Brain Smasher, Vital Vinyl Vlog, Kill Bot and Gorgor Attack, Cover Killer Nation, those sort of YouTubers. Snort Gatorade 7988 says, I know this is primarily a metal channel, but what are your opinions on 50s area rock or similar sounding genres like rockabilly, an example being the Stray Cats? I will say I'm not really that like experienced with rockabilly music. That's not a genre that I've like gotten myself into that much. I will say that I've liked a lot of psychobilly music. I like a lot of sort of the dark experimental punk infused rockabilly that came out in like the 80s, specifically a lot of the post-punk movement that incorporated that sort of old school rock and that sort of vibe and genre and stuff. I think psychobilly is pretty cool, but I don't really know that much about that genre, unfortunately, so I can't really give a solid opinion on that, and I don't like speaking of stuff that like I don't know that much about. Edward Martin 1351 says, congrats for 15k and much luck in the future. Saw your Carcass Despicable EP and subscribed. That was quite a long time ago, and that was kind of one of my smaller reviews, so goes to show that you can make something happen no matter what. I have 2 to 3 questions. What band or subgenre gave you an interest to dive deep in underground metal and fulfilling the curiosity? And the second question is there any genuine value in exploring older metal, 80s, early 90s, besides seeing the progression of what became the modern sound? Was something lost? So, for the first question, I grew up in the 2000s, so I was very privy to the alt metal, the new metal scenes, and so those are my roots in many ways, as well as grunge. I was born in 2000, so I was coming at sort of the back end of the 1990s, and so when I came into my formative years, especially through YouTube and stuff back when YouTube was a lot different, I was really fucking with bands like Korn, Slipknot, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, as well as like Cold Chamber and those sorts of bands, and like Trapped and Disturbed, Shinedown, as well as like some of the other, cringier bands that we won't name, but those were the bands that I enjoyed. The Salivas, the Traps, the Stains, like those were the bands that got me into metal early early on, and probably the biggest would be Breaking Benjamin. I was through and through a lover, and still am a lover, of a lot of alternative metal and new metal, and it's some of the shit that's most nostalgic for me. But when it comes to underground forms of metal, it wasn't until the late 2000s, early 2010s that I started to get into more extreme varieties of metal, and that is also smack dab in when you start seeing like post-hardcore and metalcore and the scene metalcore scene take off. And considering I was an emo kid that listened to like a lot of Panic at the Disco and My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, Hawthorne Heights, I got very entrenched in the post-hardcore scene, and that kind of led me down the rabbit hole to where I discovered a couple of labels that led me to that: Season of Mist, Profound Lore, Metal Blade Records, and specifically Sumerian Records, and that is where I got into a lot of gent and progressive metalcore, and that was pretty much what got me into a lot of other heavy forms of music, death metal, black metal, that sort of thing, and it took me a while to come around to it. But the band, funnily enough, that I attribute a lot of like extreme music for would probably be Born of Osiris and Ask Alexandria, because I feel like those were the first two bands that I really heard shit done in a more aggressive fashion, and that's kind of what got me into other things. I also say Carnifex would be one. The second question about like genuine value and older stuff, I absolutely think there is a lot to gain besides just the progression of sounds, because not only are you talking about the influence that a specific genre or band or artist had on what would come after them, I think that a lot of times you definitely have something that like you don't have in the modern sphere, and that just goes for anything. I'm sure 10, 15, 20 years from now, yeah, you might have bands that sound like Slaughter to Prevail or Spirit Box or Lorna Shore or Sleep Token, but they're not going to be those bands, and natural evolution when it comes to musical styles is just going to be a thorough line, but it's also going to be pretty diverse and versatile. And I think if you go back to like the 80s and 90s, there's a reason that there are so many bands and artists that want to uphold that old tradition and standard bearer. It's because there is something special about that type of music, and there is no such thing as better versus worse. It's a very subjective argument, but I think looking at the past can do more than just seeing the progression of a specific sound. And I've never been someone that's just like only listen to what's new. There are countless records every single month that I find from the 90s, from the 80s, 70s, 60s that I adore, that I fall in love with, and I think that's a good way to look at listening to music. Delusional Skit asks, what's your thoughts on the band Maleficent and Craft, and do you have any tips on writing video essays? So, unfortunately, I do not think I know the first two bands, and if I do, I don't know them off the top of my head enough to say anything about it. But as for tips on writing video essays, I'm a little unorthodox in the sense that I didn't really see a lot of video essay sort of content in the metal community. It seemed pretty homogenous, and like most of the stuff kind of just stayed with like reviews and explanations. And my thing is ever since a young age, 5, 6, I wanted to be a storyteller. I wanted to be a writer, and I enjoy poeticism and prose, and I know that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, so take my advice with a grain of salt. I personally think if you have an interesting subject that you have something of value and worth to talk about, to say about, obviously make sure to do your research. That's the end all be all, but don't be afraid of what people are going to think or that no one's going to be interested. When I first started doing video essays, I was so terrified to step away from classic review content and, interviews and track reviews and that sort of thing, because that was all I really saw in the niche and community, and what I saw was successful. And I put my own skills of wanting something bigger and wanting something, I guess, that felt more meaningful, that felt like it had more stakes, that it felt more poetic and philosophical and deep. I wanted to create something like that, and I wanted to try to take the niche in a different sort of direction that felt true and authentic to my skill set and the things that I enjoyed. And those videos ended up being my most successful videos on my entire channel. I made a random video essay. One of my first ones was on the band Sun, a pretty idiosyncratic underground noise metal project, and it's at like 50,000 views. I made one of Rika the Enzen Gas Fumes, a really small like Japanese like NSBM band, and it has like 20,000. Like, don't be scared of what the reaction's going to be if you feel like you have something of note to say, and don't think that there has to be a specific way to format it, because I think people like Philosophy Tube and ContraPoints and stuff definitely make the niche of video essays feel like it has to be a specific thing. I don't think it needs to be. Be true to yourself, make something interesting, and don't let the community and niche dictate you. The Metal Meltdown said, shit, 15K, fucking congrats, bud, cheers. Thank you so much, Robert, appreciate you. Count Diongli, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, you've been here forever, really appreciate you, brother. Remember subscribing years ago after watching a Whitechapel review and thought to myself, this kid makes sense. I appreciate you. I'm getting fucking older. I'm assuming it was maybe like The Valley or something, or Ken. Did I review Ken? I don't think I reviewed Ken. Probably was The Valley. But thank you very much, I appreciate it. Argo Slant Cheerleader 1865. Has anyone asked favorite demo yet? Oh my god, demos. My lord, I'm going to be completely real with you. I'm usually not that much of a demo person. I know for a fact there have been a ton of great underground death metal and black metal, and especially like grindcore and gore grind demos I've enjoyed, but I can't say that there's been many that have stuck out to me so much that I'm just able to pull it out for you. I just cannot think of a demo, unfortunately. Like, off the top of my head, I'm mostly like an album or EP person. Unfortunately, I have to get back to you on that. And if I find an answer, I will respond and let you know. Ember the Raccoon 37 says, several questions. Do you think new metal could go in the direction of Tala's music and generally get wackier and heavier? I'm all for that. I'm all for experimentation. Tala aren't typically my cup of tea for like new metal. I've actually seen them live. Have a lot of respect for Hungry Lights, but not really my cup of tea for new metal. But I definitely have a ton of respect for what they do, and absolutely, I think that any genre willing to get funky and experimental and weird and wacky, I'm massively for. Do you think we will ever see a major revival of electronica in the near future? I think you already are. I think that with bands like The Browning and specifically Electric Callboy, I think you are kind of seeing that come back into the forefront a little bit more. And I think Octane Core is doing a lot for that as well. You're seeing a lot of metalcore bands use like synths in their music and electronics, and even mainstream bands like Spirit Box, as well as Bad Omens, Bring Me the Horizon, in interlacing like hyperpop into their music nowadays. I think you're seeing that more and more, and even I think the reason a lot of people don't think electronica is alive and well is because it's not really what you got in like the Attack and Inner Shikari and early like I See Stars and Asking Alexandria vibe. Maybe you're not getting that, but I think electronica has evolved similar to how kind of like deathcore has evolved. So, funnily enough, if you could choose only one deathcore band to listen to, which one would it be and why? Fuck! Oh god, I'm stuck between like three. I'm stuck between Born of Osiris, Carnifex, and Veil of Maya. Born of Osiris and Veil of Maya, unfortunately, even though Veil of Maya has my favorite deathcore album, Eclipse, Born of Osiris has some of my favorite deathcore releases, period, but neither are deathcore anymore. Carnifex, I think I might have to go with Carnifex. I fucking love their discography. I think they're incredibly underrated, very solid. Yeah, I think I'd probably go with Carnifex. If I had to listen to only one deathcore band, I am a massive Carnifex advocate. I have no question. I found you when I searched for Music Elitist and I subscribed. I will always go after Music Elitist, but you know, I give them their credit. Mars 6, that was Kiara Strings, by the way. Mars 6967 says, what are your thoughts on the Bear Scar Symmetry, if I can speak the fucking English language, and Darsamonia Mundi? Don't know the second. Scar Symmetry, pretty solid. Don't know enough about them, though, to really comment that much, but really solid from what I've heard. They're two of my favorites. It would be nice to see what you think about them. I really love their albums, Symmetric in Design and Fragments of Degeneration. Thanks a bunch. I'll have to look more into them. I'm always looking for recommendations, and as much as I give you guys recommendations, y'all help me find new music, so thank you. It's a parasitic relationship in the best way. What Incan Poet asks, what are some bands for one reason or another you feel you've grown or fallen out of love with? That's a really good question. I would say Asking Alexandria, just because of their style change. But for the sake of this question, I'm not just going to say, oh, someone changed their style so I like them less. I'm actually going to say a band that I've fallen out of love with. I would probably say I See Stars, definitely. Treehouse is still a really great record, but I do not like I See Stars as much as I used to. I would say I do not listen nearly as much to Cannibal Corpse as I once did. Even though I love Cannibal Corpse, I would say that I don't listen to them nearly as much as I used to. Surprisingly, maybe Slipknot. I used to be much more into Slipknot. As much as I love to go back and listen to, like, Linkin Park, I don't really just go out of my way to listen to a ton of Linkin Park nowadays. But, fallen out of love with... I'd say probably a lot of like the early new metal and alt metal bands that I really like the post grunge ones. I don't really listen to like Trapped, Stain, Saliva. I don't really listen to them anymore, but there was a point where I really fucked with them heavily. I'd say those. I think those are a good list. The Black Credo. Sorry if this has been asked and answered already and I missed it. Have you made your own music? I have. I write a lot of different types of music, everything, but surprisingly, I have not wrote or, like, done that much metal stuff. Even though I do like, metal stuff, like, vocal-wise, like, I have practiced metal vocals for a very long time, and I've done covers and shit. I've not really released that much original music on this channel. I've wanted to, but most of the music that I make isn't really metal. I make a lot of, like, folk type of music and indie music, but I don't really release it on, like, platforms or anything. It's more so just, like, catharsis, venting, personal stuff, but I would not mind getting into that in the future. Maybe if I felt like, you know, that would be good. DeGeek 1996 asks, where do you think the metal scene should go in order to survive or remain relevant? I think don't gatekeep, don't hold people to weird standards, don't make criterias. Know that everyone has to start somewhere and no gateway band is better or worse than another. Always be willing to experiment. Flag bearing is good, but don't go out of your way to just uphold the past and don't take and never take the genre in a new direction. Always be willing to let new people in, be respectful, you know, keep the genres what they are intended to be, outcast culture, and, you know, don't cast people out for not fitting what you want them to fit. Those are my personal opinions on it. Don't take it too seriously, I guess, would be another one. The Vengeful One 6040 says, sorry for the literal shitpost question I'm asking, but for the funny, my question is, do you poop? I do poop. Okay, serious question. How did you get into metal music in the first place? Was it an artist or through friends' music taste? Personally, for me, I got into metal through some metal nerdcore songs by an artist known as DA Games, who puts in rock metal styles into his music, still listen to him to this day. I'm actually a nerdcore voice actor, so, you know, hails from the nerdcore community. I kind of went into this earlier, but just to expand on it, both of my parents were big instrumental parts of my music listening journey. My mother was not much like metal or rock, but my dad absolutely. He was a massive metal fan in the 70s and 80s. He was also a big grunge fan, and so I heard a lot of music through him when I was really young that was very impressionable on me, but definitely it was just 2000s alt metal, new metal, like post-grunge, that those were the bands that got me into not just fucking metal, just music in general. Like, that was the culture that I grew up in and what I identify most with. So I would definitely say that. Cody Baynert 1109 says, congrats on the 15k subs. Hope you keep growing in popularity. I do too. I want to keep this platform growing too. I have a lot of fun with this. Thank you. Might be an odd question, but there are no such things as odd questions, my friend. But since we both share an interest in ambient music, what artists would you recommend for metalheads to get into ambient music? Apologies if this is a question you've already tackled on a previous video that I didn't see yet. I want to do a full video on ambient music eventually, but Benoit Peelard, How to Disappear Completely, Baki/Boki, I don't know how to pronounce it, Nout, are some artists that I would suggest. Those are some of my favorite ambient artists. I fucking absolutely adore ambient music. Is this recording? I would have killed myself if it wasn't recording. Those are some of my favorite ambient artists. I love ambient artists. I'm gonna make a whole video essay on that at some point, because ambient music means a lot to me. Izanami17 says, first of all, just wanted to say congrats on 15k. Secondly, thanks for getting me into some great bands. For instance, Icy Stars, who are in my top 5 metalcore and making me feel welcome in the scene as a trans woman. Love you, sister. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Keep rocking. The questions. Favorite bands. Can I just rattle off? I'll probably miss some. Linkin Park, Breaking Benjamin, Veil of Maya, Born of Osiris, Era, Holding Absence, Dayseeker, let's see, Dance Gavin Dance, Bring Me the Horizon, Asking Alexandria, Cannibal Corpse, Mayhem, Bathory, Venom, Dark Throne, Death, Napalm Death, Incantation, Immolation, Typo Negative, Danzig, Led Zeppelin, Judas Priest, Pink Floyd. I'm probably missing a lot. Like, there's so many bands I love. I just fucking love music, man. I just love music. God, I love music. Carnifex, Whitechapel, Yeah, I just love music. Those are some of my favorites. Do you like horror, and if so, what's your favorite movies in the genre? I don't really watch movies or shows that much, but I fuck with horror games a lot. I literally think that, like, in my Discord bio, I have Horror Game Junkie right now. I love horror games. I love a lot of Roblox horror games. Don't at me. Phasmophobia, Lethal Company, Cry of Fear, Layers of Fear. There's just a ton of... I grew up watching, like, Amnesia and shit. Like, I love horror games a lot. What was the first reaction to a Screamin' Metal for you? It was probably, one of the alt-metal bands I heard back in the 2000s, and I don't know, but the first time I can really recall was when I first heard Machine by Born of Osiris, and I was like, damn, I am not prepared for this. Thoughts on Typo Negative, and will a video ever be made on them? They're my favorite band ever, thanks. Yes, most likely. I've been getting requests to do Typo Negative. I'm doing a rough guide series to different artists coming up, and I'm wanting to kind of expand the rough guide to genres into artists and bands, because I'm one person. I can only do so much, but I'm trying my best. But yes, I want to dig into them, because October Rust is one of my favorite albums of all time. Alexander by Lienko 435. So what are your favorite metal genres, and what do you listen to apart from metal? So recently I did a video of my favorite non-metal artists. There are dozens upon dozens of artists, and I didn't even get to them all, but I listen to fucking everything outside of metal too. Like everything from Denzel Curry to hyperpop like Sophie and 100 Gex and, you know, Caroline Polachek and Break-Ins. I listen to hip-hop, Denzel Curry, JPEG Mafia, Tyler the Creator, you know, Zillakami, XXXTentacion, Nothing Nowhere. I listen to a lot of pop music. I listen to a lot of ambient music, folk music. I love old school progressive rock and just rock in general. I like grunge music. I like punk music. I don't believe in guilty pleasures, man. If I enjoy something, I enjoy it. What are your favorite metal genres? If I had to make like a top three, probably, I would probably say like metalcore / progressive metalcore. I'll lump them in because I love progressive metalcore. And I would say alternative metal and black metal / like atmospheric black metal. I really like atmospheric black metal and black and folk metal when it's made correctly. But that wraps up the Q&A video. You can let me know down in the comment section below what your opinions are of these, and if you have any other questions that didn't get answered, you can let me know down below as well. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.